Housing News 360. Let's take a look at the headlines. Federal government mills 500 billion naira housing budget for 2025. Nigerian government proposes 77,400 free houses for the poor in all 774 local government areas. On the foreign scene, Air relaunches housing project, demand soars. The news in detail. The federal government says it is liaising with the National Assembly leadership to increase its annual housing budget to a minimum of 500 billion naira starting with the 2025 budget cycle. The Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Architect Ahmed Musa Dangiwa, revealed this to State House correspondent on Monday at the maiden edition of Meet the Press, a weekly engagement forum organized by the Presidential Digital Strategy and Communications team. Dangiwa argued that the appeal became necessary as a 50 billion naira annual budget for housing is grossly inadequate compared to the yearly 5.5 trillion naira required to address the housing deficit. This forms part of a four-pronged funding strategy to finance its renewed homes initiatives. Dangiwa enumerated the funding route, noting that first, the current 50 billion naira budgetary provision funds only 12 renewed hope estates through the 2023 supplementary budget, with an annual 27.2 billion naira allocated in 2024 for infrastructure completion. He said the ministry plans to expand these projects in the 2025 budget. The minister emphasized that while PPS addresses housing needs for specific income levels, they cannot alone bridge the significant housing deficit estimated at 550,000 units annually. Consequently, he underscored the importance of increasing the government's annual housing budget, revealing that discussions with the National Assembly have secured support for a minimum 500 billion naira allocation beginning in 2025. Dangiwa also announced the establishment of the National Social Housing Fund, which aims to ensure that all Nigerians, especially low-income earners. The Mortgage Banking Association of Nigeria, MBAN, has offered to partner the federal government for effective implementation of the newly approved 250 billion naira mortgage and real estate investment fund. MBAN said its members in mortgage banks and brokers were ready to ensure that the benefits reach the targeted Nigerians for the initiative. The association announced this in a statement yesterday in Abuja by its president, Ebilate Mark Yoroki, and its executive secretary, Dr. Adedeji Ajadi, in reaction to federal government's approval of the fund to address Nigeria's housing deficit. The federal government has hinted at its plan to fund delivery of 100 housing units to the poor in each of the nation's 774 local governments through voluntary donations from no fewer than 10% of the population. The said housing units are to be delivered under the proposed National Social Housing Fund, currently being worked out by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. Briefing newsmen at the State House Abuja, Minister of Housing and Urban Development Musa Dangiwa said the ministry had written to all stakeholders in government on how they intended to raise funds for the project. The minister also stressed that his advocacy for increased budgetary allocations for housing delivery has gained the support of the lawmakers in the National Assembly. The Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, Architect Ahmed Musa Dangiwa, has reiterated his ministry's commitment to fixing the existing gaps and making a historic difference in the housing and urban landscape of the country. The minister brought this to light in a meeting with a technical mission from the World Bank on land titling, registration and cadastre at the ministry's headquarters in Abuja. He appreciated the ministry's long-standing partnership with the World Bank, noting that it was aimed at tackling systemic issues that have hindered effective land administration, management, governance, and urban development. According to the minister, some of the priority areas are the implementation of a national land registration and titling program in partnership with state government, a move that would unlock over $300 billion debt capital tied up in undocumented land. Now, a magistrate court in Ibadan on Monday granted 10 million naira bail to two persons arrested for allegedly stealing a trailer load of iron rods worth 50 million naira at Odo Ono Akpata area of Ibadan. The defendants, Sunday Shoaibu 32 and Nura Mohammed 24, were arraigned by the police on allegations of conspiracy and stealing. They, however, pleaded not guilty to the charges preferred against them. The prosecutor, Inspector Folake Ewe, told the court that the defendants allegedly committed the offenses on October 30, conspiring to steal the iron rod, property of the Chinese and Bridge Corporation Company. She said the offenses contravened sections 516 and 390 of the Criminal Laws of Oyo State 2000. The magistrate T.G. Daudu granted the defendants bail in the sum of 10 million naira each, with 2 sureties in like sum. She subsequently adjourned the case until January 14, 2025 for hearing. On the foreign scene, during its 150th anniversary celebration, Erie, Colorado took a substantial move towards improving the accessibility of its housing options for its residents. Applications for Cheeseman Street residences, the town's first median affordable housing project, were sent and the response was phenomenal. In a matter of minutes, there were more applications than there were houses available, underscoring the region's pressing need for reasonable priced housing. Cheeseman Street Residences marks a new chapter in Erie's effort to support its growing community. Homes in this project are priced between $300,000 and $400,000, roughly half of Erie's current median home price of $770,000. This makes the dream of home ownership achievable for more middle-income families. These initiatives aim to ensure that people working in Erie can also afford to live there. More stories in Housing TV News at the top of the hour.